Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to Booklights today. You are in for so much monster fun today because it is the second week of spooky season here on the podcast. And this week we are welcoming author Jason Offutt to our podcast. He has a brand new monster book out called Chasing North American Monsters, a guide to over 250 creatures from Greenland to Guatemala. So if you haven't read his books yet, he also has some fiction out as well. So we'll talk about that. But I'll read his bio here so you can get to know him. Jason teaches journalism at Northwest Missouri State University. He's the author of 4 previous books on paranormal topics, including Haunted Missouri and Paranormal Missouri, in addition to several novels. He's been interviewed on the Whitley Steiber's Dreamland, Destination America, Binal of America, Darkness Radio, and Para Podcast, and now Booklights, and other prominent paranormal podcasts. You can visit him at his website, and I put the link to his website right there on the Booklights page. So if you check out the show notes, you can go to his website, find all the books, and sign up for his newsletter, etc. So without any delay, you there, Jason?
I sure am. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk monsters. So I have to give you a little backstory. So all the publicists always send me the new books, and I'm a writer too, so I know kind of what I like. And in October, it's all spooky all the time. So it's all horror and books like that. And when your book came through from the publicist and it said Greenland to Guatemala, I was like, a Greenlandic monster. So anyway, I was so excited when she said you could come on.
Okay, great.
I don't know why I'm obsessed with Greenland, but I have been since I was a kid, and I didn't know that they had a monster. So do you want to tell everybody about your book and how you found out that places like that had monsters?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, first off, I've always been interested in monsters. When I was a kid, in elementary school, we'd get the Scholastic Book Club order form.
Yes.
And I would always get books on, Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. That's what I liked. So I've always been interested. And a few years ago, I wrote a book entitled Chasing American Monsters, where I covered monsters from all 50 states. And it went over really well enough that the publisher asked me to do another one, which is Chasing North American Monsters. And although I did cover all 50 states again, I didn't do it extensively because I'd already covered all 50 states, but I made sure I hit everything from the Arctic Circle all the way down to Panama.
Wow. And when you start, obviously you teach journalism, so you're good at, Googling and all that, but how did you track down like monsters in Greenland? How did you go about doing that?
Well, I went, I looked up cryptids and folklore from every country.
Wow.
And Greenland's was fun, and a lot of them had to do, of course, with the ocean.
Right.
Also had to do with the cold, and so the ones that had to do with both, and it's similar to monsters in all around the world actually. They're warnings. They're warning stories for small children not to venture too far away from the fire or to get away or too far away from home, and warnings for people to treat the ocean well,
Right.
and not to be, to treat animals, be a good steward of the planet. I really wish the rest of us would listen to those more.
Right. Yeah. We only have one.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because I write paranormals, but my only historical one was set in Ireland. And I went down this rabbit hole of the Auguski, I think is how you say it, the water horse. And the stories about, finding bodies at the edge of the lake with no organs. And you have to figure every monster comes from a nugget of something that happened that people needed to explain. And I'm like, what happened to everyone's organs?
Yeah.
But did you find that? Was there little things that were probably truth?
I think with a lot of monsters, there's got to be some kind of truth. I mean, there are
Right,
some that are definitely yeah, this is not real, but there are so many monsters that are similar. And not just in, like I said, Ireland. There are a lot of different types of fae folk in Ireland and all through the British Isles, but there are also similar to almost exactly the same fae folk all through Europe, all across Asia, North America, South America, uh,
wow.
the islands, Australia, Africa. I mean, all these stories are so similar, and they've been around longer than the continents have communicated with each other.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's the other interesting thing. They didn't have social media, so how come their monsters are similar? It has to be nuggets of truth, right?
right, I definitely think so. And let me take the Pukwudgie for example. The Pukwudgie is a fae folk from it's a Native American creature from New England, and it's about 2 to 3 feet tall, large nose, large ears, dresses like the natives, can turn invisible, uh, can shoot poison arrows, and and start fires. But one of the things that it does is it takes care of the forest. It takes care of wildlife, plants and animals. And if you are cutting down trees excessively, if you are over hunting, it doesn't like that. So
Right.
it will lead you through the forest until you do something like fall off a cliff. It
Oh,
will do that. Or if you are a good steward to nature and you get lost out in the woods, it'll guide you out. Right. But all of these different continents with all of these different fae folk do the same thing. It's ridiculous. They look the same. They either
wow.
it's either magic arrows or poison arrows, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, they steal babies.
Mm-hmm.
The well,
The changelings.
the changelings is one.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found fascinating is, so, okay, first, we don't listen to the natives. Any native population, the Western people have always, ignored them.
Right.
Which, why? I mean,
Right.
they've
They've
been
been here
there.
longer. Yeah.
They've been there longer. In Indonesia, on the island of Flores, there was a legend for the longest time of these 2 to 3 foot tall humans, big noses, big ears, and they would come in. They dressed like the natives did, and they would come into the village and steal babies. But in this case, they would eat them. They were called the Ibu Gogo, which means grandmother who eats everything.
Hansel and
And
Gretel much?
yeah, and of course, Western science, laughed at that. It's just a
Right.
funny, fanciful tale until they found a series of caves with full-grown human adults that were 2 to 3 feet tall.
Wow.
And so they this even got a branch of humanity. It's called Homo florensis, and they nicknamed them the Hobbits because they were found about the time the Lord of the Rings movies came out. But
Wow.
here we have a native tale that was true.
Right.
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 And
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'll read one of these tales. Science is absolutely flummoxed because it turns out, hey, they were telling the truth. By
Right.
golly.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Shocking.
Right.
Well, did you have any like big surprises when you were researching these monsters? Like one where you were like just gobsmacked at, how outlandish it was or how scary it was? Were there any that surprised you?
Actually, not necessarily for this book. There were a lot of great monsters, don't get me wrong. A lot of great monsters, like the Grafton monster, which was in West Virginia. It was seen once, but it looked kind of like Clayface from Batman villain. It
Oh,
was
okay.
it was Bigfoot sized, but it was gray and looked like it was made roughly out of clay. That was an interesting one. The Fresno night crawlers were another one that absolutely was fascinating because back in the late 70s, I'm pretty sure, near Fresno, California, a a security camera caught a picture of these two entities. They were white entities, and they looked like a pair of bell-bottom pants. Two
Wow.
pairs of bell-bottom pants walking. And um, they a couple of other people reported seeing it. A few years after, they were seen in Fresno. A husband and wife were driving near Carmel, California, and one of these pairs of pants walked across the road in front of them.
Oh my gosh, with no body in them.
No, I'm not saying they were pairs of pants,
Right,
but
right.
that's what they looked like.
Wow. Little
And
U-shaped things that walk.
right. And
Wow.
I think those were pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
I think the most bizarre I found, I've got a book coming out next year in September, Chasing the World's Monsters.
Oh,
And there was a monster called the Zizi, Xizi, in China. And it was located in kind of higher elevation in the water. And it looked like a leather rug. And what this would do is, if somebody wasn't paying enough attention, it would lift up and wrap itself around a body part. It had, along the edges, it had little claws that it would latch onto you, and it had a
wow.
mouth with a sucker on it on the bottom, and it would suck your blood. The
Wow.
crazy thing, that one's weird, but the crazy thing is in the Andes in South America, the exact story.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
and again, these are ancient stories, and we weren't connected at that point. And that one's bizarre enough. Even if you did know it, why would you want to copy it?
Right.
Who's going to believe that?
Yeah, it's a terrible monster leech.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, what can you tell us about your Greenland monster? Because I'm all about Greenland.
All right. Great. I would love to go to Greenland. I really
Me
would.
too. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah. The weird thing is, um, with Greenland is, of course, I mean, I'm sure people know that when the Vikings just found it. I mean, they weren't the first. Inuits were there already,
Right.
but they called it Greenland to get Vikings to come out there. If they would have called it Iceland, nobody
Right.
came to see. There is a forest there, and it's a full 14 miles long.
Wow.
It's really small, but Greenland. I am not going to be able to pronounce any of these words. I'm
Right.
just telling you that right now. Let me give this in a shot. Uh, Erla virus aquu.
Okay.
Uh, these are human, and a lot of the monsters up in those climes. I mean, over in Canada as well, are absolutely vicious. This one is one of those warnings that I talked about, um, not to go wandering in the wilderness. This is when a person goes out into the wilderness and gets lost. They need help. They go if and they might find a hovel, some sort of a little hut. And if they
Right.
go in it, if they go into the hut, there's this name I can't pronounce. It actually, she's a witch that she will eviscerate them and eat their intestines.
Wow.
So yeah, stay away from that. There's another one that's called the Ikusik. I think I might
Hmm.
be better on that. And it's the Inuit, that's the Inuit word for elbow, because this is another human-like entity that was a person who got lost in the snow, and
Hmm.
his punishment for being stupid is to turn into this entity, and this entity doesn't have legs anymore,
Uh-huh.
and its hands are gone. It
Oh my,
travels by walking on its elbows.
dragging on its elbows.
Drags on
Wow.
its elbows, and it will chase people that it finds out away from a village, and it will eat them.
Oh my gosh. So it is like a zombie that drags itself along.
Right. Well, and I've actually seen some zombie movies with zombies that look just like that. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, do you have any, like, I've noticed in your fiction too, there's lots of monster things. Do you have any um times where you thought maybe you saw a monster? What started the fascination?
Oh, I have some ghost stories, but that I was, personally there for, but not monsters, which I'm kind of happy for. But um, my fascination started. I was always I always read. As soon as I learned
Mhm.
how to read, I was reading by myself. And when I was about 7 or 8 years old, we had a couple of different newspaper subscriptions, and I would read those because it interested me. And the Kansas City Star had stories in July of 1973, and there was a Bigfoot that was seen in Missouri over in a town near a town called Louisiana, which is between Mark Twain's Hannibal and St. Louis, right on the Mississippi River. And it would, people had seen it. Somebody saw it carrying a dead dog. A 16-year-old girl was doing dishes while her younger brothers were playing in the yard, and all of a sudden she noticed it standing at the tree line, eyeballing her little brothers. And of course, she freaked out and rushed them into the house. I think my favorite story was actually the first one I read. Two girls, they were 17 and 18, were having a picnic out at a park,
Hmm.
and they smelled something, like dead animal, skunk, typical Bigfoot smell, but they didn't know what a Bigfoot was. And
Right.
they looked up from their picnic blanket and they saw this 7 foot tall creature covered head to toe in tail, or tail in hair, head to toe in hair. And it was staring at them, and they
Uh-huh.
freaked out and ran to the car and locked the doors. And the driver realized that she'd left her purse with the keys in it on the picnic blanket.
Oh no,
So this
dang
thing
it.
approached the car, pressed its face against the glass, yelled, and she honked the horn at it until it got spooked and ran off to where she, went out and got her keys, and they got the heck out of there. But the fact that these stories were happening in my state was
Yeah.
great. I wanted to know more. I would go outside all morning and afternoon out in the cornfield wandering, looking for Bigfoot footprints. I never found any, but it would drive my mom nuts because that's all I would talk about for weeks was Bigfoot. But so I think really that's where my interest in monsters came from.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I have always been a Bigfoot non-believer, but the Unsolved Mysteries had this episode about the Navajo Nation, and they have their own Navajo marshals. And there were a whole slew of these Bigfoot sightings. And so, anyway, these two guys were on the episode talking about all these different things that happened. But the thing that got me was that there was a woman who lives on the Navajo reservation who her security camera caught a thing walking by, and the barbed wire fence had this giant tuft of hair, and she saw the video footage and she called the marshals and they came out, and these guys had the hair tested and the DNA came back that it wasn't human or animal.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
like, what? So
yeah,
now I'm a believer. I'm like, what the heck was it? But
right.
there's something out there in those big footprints that they cement, and it's wild.
Well, and with Bigfoot, this one, this is a question I get. If any monsters are found to be real, what do you think it would be? And I'm like, it's got to be Bigfoot because
Right.
there's so much evidence, so many sightings, and this is another one. We've got our Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. Different parts of the country, we've got the Florida skunk ape, we've got, the Ohio grass man, things like that. But down in Central and South America, they've got a Sisamite,
Hmm.
which is a Bigfoot.
Oh,
Australia has the Yowie, which is a Bigfoot.
wow.
Europe, forest in Europe have the wild man in the forest. We've got the Alma, the Almasty from Russia. We've got the Yeren from China, the
Yeti.
the Yeti from Tibet, the Orang Pindak from Sumatra. Even
Wow.
Sri Lanka and New Zealand have their own Bigfoot stories.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So
So
they've
I mean,
got to be out there,
it's
maybe.
got to be out there, and of course there are some from Africa as well. There are a lot from Africa, and there's Japan has a Bigfoot story as well. I mean, they're
Really?
everywhere.
Wow. Wow. And in our, technology and everything, it's fascinating that there could possibly be a race of beings that we haven't like studied. It's wild, but I think you're
Well,
right.
okay, well think of it this way. Think of it this way. And I didn't know this until I started researching it. The United States alone, 42 to 43% of it is uninhabited.
Wow.
Sure, we go there. We go see it. We go to our national parks. We will drive through the desert. We will, drive through the mountains. But most of that area is uninhabited. Of course, something could live there.
Right.
And that's the United States. Think about how much of Canada is open. Mexico's got a lot of open room. South America's got tons of uninhabited land. And then go to Africa. Geez, the Congo Basin by itself is enormous. So
Wow.
I think there are plenty of places. I didn't even get into Asia. Oh my gosh, it's huge. But there are so many places that these things could live and thrive in. And
Yeah.
we'd
And
never
nobody
see
would
them.
even know.
Yeah, wouldn't even know.
Wow. Well, I was doing book research in Sedona and I wanted to go out to the Hopi Nation, which is somehow right in the middle of the Navajo Nation. And if you've ever gone out there, there is miles of nothing. I mean, we drove for like 2.5 hours out to the middle of nowhere and we saw one car, and as it came the other way,
Mm.
my husband was joking and he goes, "Were they saying go back?"
Yeah.
Because there's just
Well, it's
nothing.
like I drove the family through South Dakota a few years ago or about 8 years ago, to go to Mount Rushmore, and the only thing that we saw were, wall drug signs. That was about
Yeah.
it. It was just a whole lot of nothing out there.
Yeah, we thought as we were driving, we're looking at miles and miles of nothing, and we thought, wow, the aliens could land and have a whole civilization out here, and none of us would know.
Never know it. Yeah. And then when we're talking monsters, we haven't even talked about the ocean.
Yeah, tell me about an ocean monster.
Well, I'll mention a couple of ocean monsters, but just looking at the ocean, we have mapped about 90% of the ocean, the bottom of the ocean from satellite. But about 95% of the ocean is unexplored. We don't have a clue what's down there. We're always discovering new things. Uh,
Yeah, true.
right. So there's tons down there. I think one of my favorite, because it could actually be true, there's actually a photograph of it, is the Cadbrosaurus. And this is a really long, uh, undulating fish. By really long, I mean like 40 feet long, um, that lives in the Pacific Northwest, off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, up around Oregon, Washington, going up into Canada and Alaska. And they've been sighted for over 100 couple hundred years. There was a whale back when whaling was a thing, a sperm whale that was captured, and when he was split open, there was one of these Cadbrosauruses inside, and they took a picture of it. You can look the picture up online.
Wow.
There have been plenty of reports of pilots, because that's where you get to lots of places up there, seeing these strange tube-like creatures, undulating through the, very unfish-like through the ocean. So, I mean, just from the reports and the fact there's a photo, even though it's unknown to science, I think that's a pretty good one.
Wow. Do you think that is a relative of Loch Ness, of Nessie?
It's a completely different description. I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
about Loch Ness. The Loch Ness has always fascinated me. Um, but there's got to be a breeding population in order for Nessie to have existed since the 700 AD. That's when the first sighting was.
Right.
Yeah. However, Loch Ness is a lot bigger than what people think it is.
Right.
Yeah. I'm planning I've got a class proposed to study abroad, a travel writing class. And we're gonna hopefully, if I get enough students, we're going to hit all the paranormal hotspots in England or
Oh,
in
nice.
the UK, not just England, but in the
Right.
UK. And we're going to end up on the last day on the waters on Loch Ness looking for the monster. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
wish
So
wish me
cool.
luck on finding it.
Yeah. Well, if you love Loch Ness, Steve Alton, who wrote the Meg series, the
Oh
shark
yeah,
books, he wrote an amazing book on Loch Ness that he has all the research in the back of it, but all of this footage from these kids who found a deer that was eaten outside of the lake and all these weird, strange drag marks and things. And he thinks Loch Ness can come out of the water. So I'm
well,
like, what?
there are a couple of famous early part of the 1900s, a couple of famous sightings of the Loch Ness monster. I mean, right after they uh, built the road around the loch, a couple of people reported this big gray blob thing that rushed across the road and left marks in the
Very strange marks.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? And I apparently he's eaten cows and this deer and all this stuff. And I'm just like, wow. So
Yeah.
if it can come out, maybe it goes out and comes back to the
Maybe.
loch or
And to be
something.
fair to Nessie, I've eaten those things too.
Yes. Yes, Nessie has good taste. So what is next for you? I know you said Chasing the World's Monsters is coming out, but what are you working on now?
Right now, I am working on a novella, horror, and I'm just about finished with it. I'm at about close to 40,000 words, and
Nice.
it's been pretty fun. So hopefully, I can get that published in the next year. I keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah. And I do a Halloween movie countdown every year, and it was funny because I was getting ready for our podcast, and one of the days this week it was Children of the Corn, and I saw that you had Girl in the Corn. I'm
Yeah,
like, hey.
yeah.
But do you want to tell
Other than
people
that, there was
about?
a cornfield. They're completely different. Yeah.
But I mean, fiction wise, your books look spooky and there might be some monsters, right?
Well, the Girl in the Corn and its sequel, it's a duology. The sequel, The Boy from Two Worlds, the main baddie is a fairy,
Oh,
uh, a traditional Norse mythology fairy. They were not nice.
no, they were scary.
Yes, yeah.
How did they get in the corn? I'm assuming in Missouri. Is that where it takes place?
It's in Missouri. It was the book starts out with a little boy named Thomas Kavanaugh. Woke up and he grew up on a farm and he went outside. His mom was working in the garden and he went out in the garden and she was in the sweet corn. And as he was walking toward her, he stopped because he saw a little woman standing on the blade of a blade of corn, corn stalk, and she talked to him. And the book follows him growing up and this thing stalking him for the next 30 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think that a lot of times the monster stories and movies and things are often scarier because you haven't seen the monster. Your brain makes it, like Children of the
Well,
Corn, you never saw what was running around in the corn. It was,
right. Well, that's
scary.
why I'm really happy that the animatronic shark in Jaws kept malfunctioning
Right?
because
That's so
Spielberg
much scarier.
had wanted to show the shark more, but he couldn't, so he showed it from the point of view of the shark, and that, yeah, you're right, that made it a lot more scary.
So scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just seeing the fin and not seeing the shark, terrifying. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think a lot of these cryptid monsters and things, it gets even scarier because you haven't seen it.
Right.
You get these stories and
Well, and
I
that's
just
another thing about Bigfoot that a lot of people are the Bigfoot researcher type people are kind of giving up on, well, Bigfoot's a flesh and blood animal because they tend to disappear in the forest. How can something that big disappear? And I'm thinking, have you ever spent any time in a forest? Because there are plenty of times that I've been in the woods and have not known that a deer was 10 feet away from me until I spooked it and it took off.
right.
Now, these things aren't as big as a Bigfoot, of course, but this is a 150-pound animal plus. That's big enough. And if I can't
Mhm.
notice it, I mean, I'm sure a Bigfoot that is, apparently intelligent, it would be able to hide a lot better.
Yes, yes. And forests, I mean, I know in movies and TV, or if you walk a trail in the national forest, those are cleared out. But I went down to the Yucatan for book research and realized, oh, I mean, because you can climb a pyramid and look and you can see things poking out, but there is no physical way you can
Mm,
get there.
yeah.
It's so thick.
Mm.
So if a Bigfoot who knew how to traverse through there, they would easily be able to hide from you because you
Right.
wouldn't be able to fit there.
Right. And get away from you because at that size, you really don't have to worry about underbrush.
Right.
Yeah.
You just go right over it.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, I could talk monsters with you all day, but because it's Halloween, what's your favorite Halloween spooky movie that you like to watch this time of year?
Oh, my spooky movies aren't that Halloweenish. My two favorite um, horror movies, people are mostly going to consider them science fiction movies.
Okay, that
The
works.
The Thing,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Terrifying. Yeah.
John Carpenter's The Thing, and Ridley Scott's Alien, the original.
Yes, the original Alien. Oh,
It,
so
it's
scary.
a haunted house story in space, and
Yes,
it's got all of the horror tropes and the creepiness and the building tension. It's a perfect movie.
it really is. And that one too, they held off letting you see the monster, and
Right.
it was terrifying. And that
Mhm.
whole idea that in space no one can hear you scream. I mean, there's no one to
Beautiful
help them.
tagline. What a
Yeah,
beautiful tagline.
perfect,
Mhm.
perfection. Yeah. Oh, well, I approve of your picks.
Thank you.
So when someone reads your book and they get all excited about the monsters, how can they get in touch with you? Are you on social media? How do they find you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, I've got a website, jasonoffutt.com. There's my contact information, but I'm also on Facebook, Threads, Twitter. I don't call it X. Um,
Right.
uh, Instagram, Blue Sky. I'm on all those.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
so I'd be
So
happy to hear from anybody who's got a question or comment. That'd be great.
yeah, yeah. And if you know a monster that wasn't included, let them know because there's another book
Mhm.
coming.
100%. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. It was great having you.
Okay, same. Again, I said this at the beginning, but thanks for having me on. I've had a blast. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.